Coming up next, it's Sonic Prime on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's High School Musical the Musical the Series on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Sailor Moon on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Care Bears Unlock the Magic on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Big Blue on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's D and Ace on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's 101 Dalmatian Street on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's the Snoopy Show on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Pink Panther and Pals on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Trollstopia on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Cuckoo Harajuku on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Glitter Force on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Lolly Rock on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Bizarrevark on Sunshine. Coming up next is That Girl Lele on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Almost Never on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Find Me in Paris on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Battle for Dream Island on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Inanimate Insanity on Sunshine. Coming up next is Mr. Beast on Sunshine. Coming up next is Ireland Boys Productions on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Young Love on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's the Looney Tunes Show on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Top Chef Jr. on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's America's Funniest Home Videos on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's The Voice Kids on Sunshine. Coming up next, it's Sailor Moon Crystal on Sunshine.